Hi again everyone. This is the week 4 video for our workshop class, and this week we are moving into estimated perspective of angular and planar surfaces. As you can see by these sketches, we have 1-point perspective as well as 2-point perspective structures. There are no horizon lines on the page and there are no vanishing points on the page. The requirement for this week will be to do one page of 1-point perspective and one page of 2-point perspective, estimated freehand sketching of these planar structures. So let's get into it. Okay, starting off with 1-point perspective, I'm just going to do a series of boxes using estimated perspective. So applying the principles of what we know, one face is square to us. What I'd like to see in this exercise is that you are going to draw in different angles of view. So not always from the same perspective angle. Above the horizon line, below the horizon line, at eye level, left of the vanishing point and right of the vanishing point. So let's say, for example, this one, I'm going to do a below the horizon line, and I'm just going to estimate the convergence of these lines. So I want to make sure that these lines projecting back look like they're going to a vanishing point. Then make sure that my verticals are parallel to each other, horizontals are parallel to each other, 90-degree angles. Okay, so that is estimated perspective. Let's say with this one, I draw it above the horizon line. So I'm projecting down. I'm having some convergence to make these look like they're going to a vanishing point. And then choose how long I want that box to be. Let's say about this long. Okay, so that's all estimated perspective is, but we do have to practice this, okay, apply the fundamentals. Let's say I do another one here, but this time it's going to be above the horizon line, sorry, below the horizon line, but really quite close to our eye level. Then decide how long I want that, how deep I want that box to be. Try and make my lines parallel to each other, perpendicular, verticals, and drawing nice and light. Let's do a pyramid upside down, but offset. Here's my convergence. It's still 1-point perspective, right? But there's my converging lines. Proportion this as a square. Cross my diagonals. To find center, straight down. So what we're going to do is also expand on our use of construction. Say one at eye level, and this can just be a triangulated. It's up to you what shape you start off with, as long as it's just angular and planar. And then let's say I converge out here. As soon as I put this second line down, that's establishing the perspective. So my vanishing point's out here somewhere. Then of course this line needs to be about here. And there's my triangulated wedge. Okay, just a couple more. Let's say a more vertically orientated one. Above the horizon line. So you see this convergence, the vanishing point's probably about here. And that's quite angular. Light construction. So this is where we're going to apply some construction principles. We'll start off a little bit easy. For example, we already know that if we cross the diagonals, we'll find the center of our rectangle. There's our midpoint. I can do it to the back as well. So important to use your construction lines. I can divide horizontally and vertically through that point. I've just divided that front face in 4, not necessarily squares, but divided it evenly horizontally and vertically. So like I said, we're going to start off reasonably simple. So I can take this line, I'm using heavier line weight now, and I'm just chopping out this corner. You'll see it in a second. Also know that that's where it is at the back face. And of course, to get the perspective, I just go through these corners, and these lines should look like they're going to the vanishing point. Remember, this is 1 point perspective, so it's only one vanishing point. Okay, so this is the sort of thing that I want to see you guys do, is apply construction principles, just starting off with a box, or starting off with a prism, or a triangulated wedge. Let's do one over here. Let's say I take a line across that high, and then same width for its height. Okay, how do I find that on this far side? Well, I project these lines to vanishing point. Remember, they got to converge to look like it's believable that they're going to that vanishing point to the left. And then when I find those points, I can just go horizontal, vertical, and if it's drawn correctly, when we go to hard line this thing in, which is what I'm going to do now, we get an accurate sketch. You can see I'm turning my page, right? Move your body, move your page, and try and draw accurately. Of course, that line should look like it's going to left vanishing point. Okay, so let's have a look at creating something interesting. I'm going to divide, let's see, I'm going to divide this in half. I'm just going to eye that in. I can eye in where the half is on that back face, or I can project to vanishing point and find that point. Okay, so there's many ways to get there, but just try and be accurate. Doesn't matter which method you use. So I've just divided that front and back face vertically in half. Let's say I take midpoint. So I could eye in that midpoint, or I can cross my diagonals to find midpoint, front and back. Okay, let's say I want what I'm doing is I'm going to hard line so that I've got a wedge here, but then I've divided that in half. It's not clear just yet, but now I'm going to define my object. When you come in to define your lines, you can fix up your perspective. This is above the horizon line, right? So I can see the underside of this object. Okay, there's my wedge. Underside view. So I'm going to divide that in thirds, in threes, right? I'm going to project these back to the vanishing point, or down to the vanishing point, we can say. Then I can divide that back face in thirds and then decide what I want to do. I'm going to take this corner to here. This is the front face. That's the back face, angled edge. I'm going to step this in, up, and then maybe to there. So that's the shape of this face closest to us. This is the perspective convergence. Now this has to converge, goes towards the vanishing point, and this is where that edge is at the back. The reason why I'm starting off with 1 point perspective is because this is estimated. That's already a challenge, but we need to get on top of the construction principles. Of course, this goes another level when we go to 2 point perspective. Here I'm just choosing to hatch this downward facing surfaces to communicate that form. Okay, so all these lines should look like they're converging to a vanishing point. Converge to a vanishing point, converging, converging. So really what I'd like to see you do in your sketches, whether it's for the homework feedback or for submission, is that you understand what I'm teaching you, because all of this is going to be really helpful in your drawing, right, in your sketching, to be able to construct things accurately. Right, I've done nothing new here. I've just crossed diagonals to find center, and then I can decide what I want to, what feature do I want. All right, well, I might have this cutaway. If your box isn't drawn in perspective accurately, whole thing's going to be out of whack. And then if I just want to indicate that that's an overhang, just hatch that out. That pretty much would do it. Okay, so let's say I just want to cut this pyramid in half, and it'll cut straight through that point. These are my converging lines to vanishing point. So this line must look like it's going to the vanishing point. There it is. So from here to here, that's cutting through that square in half, which means this is my new point from there to there. I'm going to turn my page so I can strike my nice clean line. Go straight to the point. There's that line that's cut that base, or the top, right, in half. Heavy line weight, and finish off that edge. I don't mind you starting off simple and work your way up, but I'd like to see by the time you submit this for assessment that there's some level of complexity in just this exercise. First thing is to get your perspective correct, right? All your horizontals, horizontal, all your verticals, perpendicular and parallel to each other, and then go for it. Start to divide up these faces. Okay, so that's 1 point perspective, planar surface constructions. The last thing I'll point out regarding 1 point perspective, estimated 1 point perspective here, is that These lines that converge to the vanishing point are not parallel. There must be some convergence of these lines so that it appears to be converging back to a vanishing point. Sometimes that vanishing point's on the page. Most of the time, it's going to be off the page. And that's why we sketch in estimated perspective, so that we're not reliant on needing to see that vanishing point on the horizon line. So let's now have a look at two-point perspective. So this is estimated two-point perspective planar constructions. From your practice of two-point perspective, we know that a box starts off with a leading edge. Then you decide, is it going to be above or below the horizon line? I'm going to do the standard 3/4, which is below the horizon line. You can see here I'm converging my lines. And then I'll establish my left vanishing point, or my left side, which is also going to have converging lines. Okay, so these three lines really should look like they're going to meet believably. Estimated perspective, right? As long as it's believable that they look like they're going to meet somewhere to the left there, I'm happy with that. Two-point perspective verticals, just like in one-point perspective, are parallel to each other and straight up and down. Now here, draw transparently and project to the right vanishing point. I can go straight up, and if it's accurate, when I draw a line through here, that line also looks like it's going to the right vanishing point. So that's estimated, and it's pretty acceptable, right? Now, similar to the one-point perspective page of sketches, estimated perspective sketches, I also want to see in the two-point perspective page you exploring different angles of view. So what if I had a box that was, let's say, still below the horizon line, but closer to the left vanishing point? If it's closer to the left vanishing point, I'm going to get a more angled face. Right, so you can see these lines are converging, but at a sharper angle. This edge here, corner, shouldn't be less than 90 degrees because that'll be distorted. So it's going to be about here. And these lines are going to converge. Let's say that's my box. Vertical lines parallel to each other. This line should look like it's going to left vanishing point. This line should look like it's going to left vanishing point. Nice and light. Then decide how long you want the box to be. This must look like it's going to the right vanishing point. You can go straight up because all verticals in two-point are straight up and down and parallel to each other. Basically what you've learnt from drawing in constructed two-point perspective, right? And if it's accurate, when I draw a line through there, that would also look like it's going to the right vanishing point. And that's the angle of view that you'll get if you draw a box below the horizon line closer to the left vanishing point. This must become second nature to you. Here I'm going to do above my eye level, so I should be able to see the underside, and it's going to be drawn close to the right vanishing point. So this left face is quite opened up, and then this is my right face, and these lines are going to converge to vanishing point. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Should look like they're going to meet somewhere down here. I want the box to be that long, so parallel, verticals are parallel. And then I have a corner. Here's my convergence. So that line must look like it's going to the left vanishing point down here. It gives me this point straight down. And if it's accurate, when I draw this line through this line, it should look like it's going to the left vanishing point. And you can sort of tweak it. Okay, so that's underside view, where I see more of the left side than the right, which means it's closer to the right vanishing point. Just going to change the proportions a bit so they don't have to be cubes. They can be long boxes. Notice none of these boxes that I'm drawing, these converging lines are not parallel. Okay, that's not perspective. We're not drawing parallelograms or isometric. That's not perspective. Estimated perspective with convergence to vanishing point. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then square off. Just remind yourself, in 2-point perspective and 1-point perspective, vertical lines are just straight up and down. These lines must look like they're projecting to the right vanishing point. If it's accurate, that corner back there will be straight up and down. Let's maybe do one at eye level. Vertical line, convergence. Draw internally. So if this, you can overshoot your lines. The longer these lines are, the better they are as a guide, obviously, because that's how you learnt how to do constructed perspective. Right, so all these lines go in that direction. Then I can project this to the right vanishing point. Now you can see that right vanishing point is about here. So that is about where that is. I can go straight up. That proportion should be the same as this proportion. And if it's accurate, when I draw this line, that would look like it's going to that vanishing point. So there's my box at eye level. I'm going to do one that's quite high up, what we call bird's eye level, a bird's eye view. So pretty much going to have this sort of angle. Even these lines are still converging to a vanishing point, okay? Then project back, project back. You can see those lines are converging to a vanishing point, and I'm going to see a lot of this top surface. Determine how deep I want that box to be. Let's say it's about here. This line must go to the right vanishing point. I can, where it's intersected, I can go straight up, right? As long as they're vertical and parallel, that should give me my correct line. That line must go to the right vanishing point. If it's accurate, a line from here to here will be parallel to all my other vertical lines. Okay, so now let's apply some construction principles, just like what we did with the 1-point perspective, to come up with a little bit more interesting structures than just boxes. Let's say I divide this vertically in thirds. What I'm doing is I'm dividing it, I'm estimating it, the division, but it's got foreshortening. So you can see these widths get narrower as I get further away or closer to the vanishing point, because that's the nature of foreshortening in perspective, right? Then I can project these back to vanishing point. So each of these lines should look like they're going to the left vanishing point. It does help to turn your page. But these are just construction lines, okay? So you can fix up the perspective if it's out of whack when you come into hardline your sketch. These vertical lines should be just vertical and parallel to all other vertical lines. Let's say I cross this diagonal on the front and back faces. Where this intersects, at that point, I'm going to say it's horizontal Why am I saying it's horizontal? Because that is horizontal. All these lines are horizontal, right? I can project this back to find that point on the far side. It looks like it's going to the left vanishing point. And then I project this to right vanishing point. And this is the feature that I want. So it's a step. So that's what it looks like at the front face. Then it comes along here and then steps down. And then when it gets to here, cuts in at a wedge. So that's the profile on this face. All I'm doing here is finding where all of these points are on that far side. Okay, so I've got that, I've got that, I've got that, and of course if it's accurate, when I draw a line from there to there, it should look like it's going to the left vanishing point. And this is also part of your training, right? In drawing things accurately in perspective, but also in proportion. So I'll write this in a minute, square this up, but all these lines should look like they're going to the left vanishing point. All these lines should look like they're going to the right vanishing point. Okay, so there's your feature. I think it's important to do these planar surfaces first, because I'm throwing you in the deep end, because we don't have any vanishing points or horizon lines, and we're also applying construction principles. But I promise you, the sooner you get good at doing this stuff, wow, the transition moving forward, it's going to be fantastic. Let's say I divide this in half. I can just cross my diagonals, divide that vertically in half through that point, do the same at the back, divide that in half. If I've drawn it accurately, a line from here to here should look like it's going to the left vanishing point, and here to here should look like it's going to the left vanishing point. Then let's say I want to have a wedge. I'm going corner to corner on that plane that I just found. I've just divided that in half. Sorry, cross midpoints to find center. Then I'm coming straight down, straight down. If it's accurate, this line will look like it's going to the right vanishing point, as is that one. Now I come in and hard line what I've constructed. Okay, so I'm just coming in with heavier line to define what I've sketched, what I've constructed. And just like with one-point perspective, you can start off simple, and by the time you submit this exercise for assessment, yeah, some of the structures can still be simple, but I'd like you also to up the degree of difficulty as you get a feel for it. Just for the hell of it, I'm going to move down here. I'm going to find the center of this face, front and back. Project a line, and this line should look like it's going to the left vanishing point if it's drawn accurately. So it's got this sort of M shape. And you don't have to leave hard definition lines to the end if you know that you're not going to construct anymore in an area. Then let's say I want to do this. I'll just choose a line. I'm going to eye the proportion for foreshortening. Let's say I square this off at the base. This line should look like it's going to the left vanishing point. And then maybe I want to hard line this. So I've got this wedge feet, and then it steps. Then we check to see if we, particularly here, if we can just see the underside of that. Okay, so there's our structure. Very different sketching to what we're doing in studio class. Both very effective, both useful, both about developing skills. Let's say with this one, I find the midpoint. You don't have to find the midpoint with everything, but I just am, and I'm dividing. Now, I divide this way, and this line must look like it's going to the left vanishing point down here, as is this one. I'll take that corner, this line, if it's drawn accurately, will look like it's going to the left vanishing point. So that's a sheared corner that I've cut out, and this is underside view, right, above the horizon line. Let's say I cut it that way. If it's accurate, this line will look like it's going to the left vanishing point. Let's say that comes straight down, and if that's accurate, this line will look like it's going to the left vanishing point. Okay, there's the underside surface, top edge, far side vertical. Okay, all construction lines shown. And I think with this one, I'll just hatch out the surfaces that are pointing downwards, because it is an underside view, and that's just enough to communicate the form. Okay, so I hope that's giving you a good idea in terms of what this exercise is about in 1-point and 2-point perspective. All freehand sketched, all in black pen, no rulers, A3 pages, even though I'm sketching an A4, full of sketches, above, below, horizon line, to the left of the vanishing point, or points, depending on whether it's 1 or 2-point perspective, to the right of the vanishing point, at your eye level. Explore different angles of view, explore different constructions using these principles. I really look forward to seeing these on Thursday, and good luck with that.